Okay, so today we're going deep, like really deep, into this YouTube video transcript. It's from this channel called Philosophical Essence. The title of this thing, How They Programmed Your Mind Since Childhood. No bees.
No bees.
Yeah, so we're going to try to like unpack the core arguments here about how all these like systems we live in, at least according to this video, are basically like shaping the way you think and act, from like the time you were a kid.
Right. And it's really important to remember that we're just kind of like looking at the ideas that are in this video.
Yeah, exactly.
Not saying that it's, the gospel truth or anything,
right.
just what this video is.
Yeah, and this video, like, it looks at everything.
Yeah.
Like schooling, media, the food you eat.
Oh, yeah.
The language you speak, even just the whole culture around you. It's like a lot.
It really is.
It's a pretty critical perspective on like all these forces that are, influencing us.
Yeah.
And, that no bees part of the title.
Right.
Kind of makes me think we might hear some pretty direct, maybe even surprising stuff.
Absolutely.
So let's jump in.
Okay.
What's the first thing that jumps out at you in this transcript?
I mean, right off the bat, this video comes out swinging.
Right.
It says, from the moment you could walk, they've been programming your mind and you didn't stand a chance.
Wow. Okay.
So like right away, they're saying that your childhood, like when you're super trusting and curious, was like prime time for these systems to kind of like plant these beliefs about the world in you, like your dreams, your fears, everything.
Okay.
It's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it gets even more intense. And it even suggests that your parents, the people you trust most, were kind of like victims too.
Oh, wow.
Caught in this same web and they couldn't stop it from happening to you.
That's kind of heavy.
And then like, bam, it hits you with this question. Is your life fully your own, or are you carrying the weight of programming you never asked for? Like, whoa.
Makes you think.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of like forces you to think about where your thoughts and desires come from.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if we follow this video's logic, it's saying that a lot of stuff you think is just like, part of you.
Right.
Might actually be because of all these things when you were a kid that you weren't even aware of.
Interesting.
And they go on to say that things like education, the media you watch, food, even language,
right,
weren't made to help you, like, be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
But to keep you, like, small and compliant and predictable. What do you think about that?
That's it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the video takes these, like, everyday things, right? Like a school bell ringing, a cartoon you watched as a kid, even just some phrase you heard all the time. And it's like it turns them into these, like, deliberate parts of this system of control.
Right.
Like they all had a purpose, even if it was, like, subtle in shaping how you see the world.
Yeah, that's really interesting, this idea that there's this, like, intentionality
Right.
behind these things that seems so normal, like the repetition, the mess. It's all for this one big goal.
Compliance.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all to get you to just go along with things and not, like, rock the boat too much.
Right, right. Don't think too critically. Just follow the rules, buy stuff, pay your taxes, and stay in your lane.
Yeah, stay in your lane. That's a good one. Okay, but it gets, like, even deeper than that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The transcript says that the greatest lie you've been told is that you are free. Like, that's a big statement.
Whoa, the greatest lie.
Yeah.
That is pretty intense.
Yeah. And saying that, like, real freedom means you got to, like, see how this system is working to keep you from being truly free.
Interesting. So you have to see the system to be free from it.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Okay.
And they're like, all those bedtime stories you heard, those kid shows, they were basically glorifying obedience. Right.
Right, right.
And making it seem like questioning authority or rebelling was, like, super dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, like the bad guys.
Exactly.
Always the rebels.
Yeah, it's all to keep you, like, in line,
Makes sense.
Follow the rules, don't cause trouble. But this part really blew my mind. It says that almost everything you think about success, about happiness, even about what's right and wrong, like morally, it was all, like, given to you.
Given to you.
Yeah, by the people who benefit when you just, go along with everything.
Huh.
It's like they're saying society wasn't made to celebrate how unique you are, but to, like, kind of squash that.
Wow.
Make you predictable so you're easier to control.
Okay, so they're setting up this whole idea that we're basically programmed from childhood.
Exactly.
To be good little consumers and citizens.
Yeah.
And that we don't even realize it's happening.
Right. Okay, so let's get into some specifics.
Okay, yeah.
Like, what does the video say about school?
So about school, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying schools are basically like conditioning your mind to fit their agenda, like molding you into little obedient
Workers, not thinkers.
Right, and all under the name of education. Pretty cynical.
Yeah, and they don't think anything in the school system is just by chance.
No, they're saying it's all intentional.
Right.
So like the big takeaway for listeners here is that school, according to this video, wasn't really about helping you grow as a person.
Right.
It was about making you follow instructions.
Interesting.
Right. Making you obedient, not independent. Even down to like the school bell ringing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They really go after the traditional education system.
Yeah.
It's not just the subjects you learn, it's the whole structure, even how it's funded. They claim that the money often goes more to the administrators and fancy buildings.
Yeah.
Not the actual students in the class.
And they compare that to prisons.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty bold comparison.
It is. They're saying both systems get money based on how many people are.
Wow.
So like maybe both systems, schools and prisons, kind of want to keep those numbers up. That's their point anyway.
Okay, so they're saying schools and prisons are basically like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
They're both all about control and profit, not actually helping people become better.
Right.
That's their argument anyway.
It is. They even call classrooms factories for conformity, making you into just another cog in the machine.
So they think the system wants you to obey, not to be independent.
Right, because if you start thinking for yourself, you might start questioning.
Yeah, that's inconvenient for the system.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about the things you actually learn in school, like the curriculum?
Oh, they have thoughts on that too. They say it's all carefully designed to make power look good and to hide the truth about anyone who, challenged it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, makes you think about your own education, right? What were you taught? What stories were left out?
Right, like what was the narrative?
Yeah.
What was missing?
They claim that history books, for example, just focus on conquests and the people in charge, but they skip over the bad stuff and ignore the people who, got hurt or died.
Yeah, like it's just one side of the story.
Exactly. And rebels, visionaries, anyone who challenged things.
What about them?
Erased. Gone.
Wow.
Or a tiny footnote somewhere.
So they're saying we're basically getting a filtered version of history.
Yeah, not the whole truth. And they say it's all to control how you see the world. Not how it really is, but how they want you.
Huh, interesting. Okay, so it's not just history, right?
Nope, not even close. They say even stuff like literature, science, math.
Those are pretty basic subjects.
Yeah, exactly. But they claim even those are used to make you comply. Literature is always praising the characters who followed.
Okay.
Science is just about memorizing facts, not really exploring and asking questions.
Right.
And math, forget about being creative with it. It's just another set of rules to follow.
Wow.
The message is always the same: obey, don't think for you.
Okay, what about standardized tests? The ones we all had to take.
Yeah, the tests.
Yeah.
They say those weren't about getting you ready for the real world or even seeing how smart you are.
No.
They claim it was all about how well you follow instructions.
Huh.
Can you memorize and do exactly what you...
So they're saying that being creative, thinking outside the box, those aren't things the system wants.
Exactly. The message is basically conform or fail.
So if you don't fit in the box, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that makes people scared to stand out, so they just settle for being average.
Okay, that's a pretty bleak view of education.
It is. But, it's making me think.
Good.
Okay, so is there anything else about school they talk about?
Oh, yeah, tons more. They even analyze the school bell, the ringing.
The bell, really?
Yeah, they say it's not just a signal. It's training you to obey without think, like Aplom's dogs.
Oh, wow.
You hear the bell, you react, no questions asked. So it's another way to reward you for being obedient and punish you for not being.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about the whole schedule of the school day? With all the different periods and classes.
They connect that to the 9-to-5 work grind. It's training you to live by the clock, someone else's schedule, not your own.
So basically they're saying that school is like boot camp for the workforce.
In a nutshell, yeah.
Okay.
But there's more. They say there are these unspoken lessons that you learn.
Like what?
Always obey authority,
Right.
Be terrified of failing, and only care about what other people think of you.
Interesting.
Gold stars, grades, teachers' approval.
So we're trained to seek external validation.
Yeah, and they say that makes you way easier to manipulate later in life.
Okay. That's school.
Yeah.
A lot to think about there. So what comes next?
Well, the video moves on to media and entertainment.
Makes sense. That's a big part of our life.
Huge. And they say it basically picks up where school leaves off, it's trying to make you conform, even in your dreams and desires.
Wow.
They argue that what you watch and listen to shapes who you become and what...
Yeah, that makes sense. We're bombarded with messages all the time.
Right. And they're saying it's not just random. It's all designed to keep you distracted, obedient, and hooked on the.
Okay, so what are some examples? Like, what are they looking at specifically?
Well, they talk about heroes, the characters and stories that we're supposed to admire.
Yeah, the good guys.
Right, and they say those heroes are usually fighting to protect the system, not to change it.
Interesting.
It's all about restoring order, following the rules, even if it means sacrificing their own. Makes you think about the heroes you've looked at, right?
It does.
So they're saying that subtly, this reinforces the idea that the system is bad and that rebelling.
Yeah, like you said, the bad guys are usually the rebels.
Exactly.
Okay, so what else?
They also talk about Disney. Yeah, they claim that Disney movies glorify monarchies and elitism.
Huh.
Like they teach kids that it's normal for some people to rule and others to serve.
Wow.
And even those classic stories where the hero rescues someone, they say those imply that only powerful people can solve problems.
So it's reinforcing this idea of hierarchy.
Yeah, they claim it's all very intentional.
Okay, so Disney is out.
Pretty much, yeah.
What about cartoons?
Oh, cartoons. They call them commercials disguised.
Commercials.
Yeah, because they often come with all this merchandise and branding.
Right.
So you start associating those characters and adventures with buying stuff.
So they're saying happiness is tied to what you buy.
Exactly. And they argue this starts young and can last your whole.
Wow.
Makes you think about all the toys you had, right?
It does. It does. Okay, so cartoons are out, Disney is out. What about food?
Oh, yeah, they have a whole section on food.
I'm intrigued.
They analyze the Happy Meal.
The Happy Meal. Really?
Yeah, they say it's like the beginning of lifelong program.
How so?
Well, it takes those happy feelings, the fun, the toys.
Right, the excitement.
And it connects them to eating fast food.
Interesting.
And they say the food itself, all that fat, sugar, and salt, it's engineered to be addictive.
So you keep wanting more.
Exactly. And by the time you're an adult, that connection between fast food and feeling good, it's already there.
So they're saying it's not just about selling a burger, it's about shaping your habits.
Yeah.
Long term.
It's a pretty interesting argument.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so what else do they look at?
They talk about culture in general.
Okay.
Like traditions, holidays. They say a lot of that isn't really organic, coming from the people.
Yeah.
They argue that it's often created by corporations and governments to manipulate us.
Manipulate us how?
Well, they use Christmas as an example. They say it's become a huge industry that basically tells us that love equals buying gifts. And they say the goal of these engineered norms is to make us predictable.
So we're easier to control and sell to.
Exactly.
That's kind of a disturbing thought.
It is. Makes you wonder, what else is being manipulated?
Yeah. Okay, so they've talked about education, media, food, and even like cultural traditions. What else is there?
Well, they get into language.
Language.
Yeah, they call language the software that programs our.
That's a pretty strong metaphor.
It is. They say even simple phrases, things you hear all the time can be like psychological hand.
Like what?
Like, don't talk back, or that's just the way it is, or be a good boy or girl.
Okay, yeah, those are pretty common phrases.
Right, but they're saying they discourage you from asking questions, make you obey.
Interesting. So it's not just what we learn, it's how we talk about things.
Yeah, the language we use shapes how we.
Okay, and what about those corporate buzzwords, all the jargon you hear at work?
Oh, they have thoughts on that too. They say stuff like team player and stay in your lane are just new versions of don't talk back.
So it's still about obedience, even in the workplace.
Right. Compliance is good, questioning is bad.
Okay, so language is a tool of the system. What else?
Rituals. They talk about the power of rituals, especially the ones that seem harmless or even sacred.
Like what kind of ritual?
Well, they point to the Pledge of Allegiance, saying it's about blind loyalty to the state.
Okay.
And Christmas, again, saying it's about connecting happiness with buying stuff.
Yeah, we talked about that.
They even talk about weddings as rituals of conformity.
Weddings.
Yeah, they say if you don't follow the rules, you risk being judged.
Wow. So even those big life events are seen through this lens of control.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there are labels like the ones used in school.
Oh, right, like good grades, bad grades.
Exactly. They say that teaches you to connect your worth with how well you obey.
So if you don't get good grades, you feel bad about yourself.
Right, and that makes you more dependent on the system for approval.
It's all connected.
Exactly. And they say none of this is It's all designed by the same masters, the corporations, governments, even social media.
All profiting from our need for approval.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a pretty bleak picture.
It is.
But I'm guessing the video doesn't end there, right?
Nope. It actually offers some hope.
Okay, good.
They say that your mind can be reprogrammed.
Reprogrammed.
Yeah. And the first step is awareness, recognizing how this program.
So basically waking up to what's going on.
Right. And they challenge you to ask yourself a really tough question. Who benefits from my beliefs about success, love, happiness, failure?
Wow, that's a big question.
It is. It makes you really examine where you're valued from.
Yeah. And what about practical steps? Like, what can you do to actually reprogram your...
Well, they talk about mindfulness, being present in the moment.
Okay.
It helps you create space between what happens and how.
So you can choose how to respond, not just react automatically.
Exactly. And they also talk about controlling your mental diet.
Mental diet.
Yeah, basically being picky about what media you consume.
So not just passively absorbing everything.
Right. You got to question the messages you're getting.
Right. Like, what's the agenda behind this?
Exactly.
Okay, so mindfulness and media awareness. What else?
They suggest surrounding yourself with things that inspire you,
Like what?
like art, nature, books that make you think.
Okay, so like a positive environment.
Right.
Not just all the consumerist stuff they were talking about before.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about relationship?
They say to focus on building genuine relationships,
Yeah.
not ones based on validation or status.
So like real connections.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there anything about like taking action, beyond just personal change?
Yeah, they definitely talk about that. They say that awareness needs to spread,
Right.
that people need to come together and challenge these systems.
Okay, that's a big step.
It is, and they talk about supporting people who are speaking truth, like journalists, podcasters, creators.
Okay, so supporting those alternative voices.
Exactly.
Okay,
And they suggest thinking about where your money goes.
like supporting small businesses.
Yeah, and rejecting this whole consumerist culture.
So like hitting the system where it hurts the wallet.
Basically. And they also talk about changing the stories.
So like promoting narratives that encourage critical thinking.
Exactly. Stories that inspire people to question.
Makes sense.
They end this section by saying that courage,
Courage is contagious.
yeah, like every time someone stands up to them, it inspires others.
Okay, so they're talking about a pretty big shift here.
Yeah, a total transformation. They say we need to rebuild everything based on fairness, empowerment, and real freedom.
So dismantling capitalism, media manipulation, and the current education system.
Pretty much. But they also talk about personal reprogramming your own mind.
Like how?
Well, they talk about replacing negative beliefs with positive,
Okay.
learning to control your emotions, things like fear, guilt, anger, and practicing gratitude.
So taking back control of your inner world.
Exactly.
And they say that true happiness isn't about what you achieve or what others think of you.
It's about finding fulfillment from within.
Okay, that's a pretty big idea.
It is. And they say that living with purpose means rejecting all those expectations and following your own values.
So not just doing what you should do, but what you truly want to do.
Right. Interesting. And that means reconnecting with your intuition, not being afraid to fail, and living intentionally.
So basically taking ownership of your life.
Yeah. And they end by saying that when you live authentically, it inspires others to do this.
So it's like a ripple effect.
Yeah,
Okay, wow, that was a lot.
it was.
So to sum up, this video is basically saying that we're all programmed from childhood by these different systems.
Right.
And that true freedom comes from recognizing this programming and actively working to break free from it.
That's the gist of it. Yeah.
Okay. And like we said at the beginning, our goal wasn't to say whether all of this is true or not,
Right.
but to give you the information and let you decide what you think.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, as you were listening to all this, what stuck out to you the most?
I mean, the whole thing is pretty thought-provoking. But I guess the thing that really stuck with me was the idea that even our deepest desires and values might be influenced by these systems.
Yeah.
Like we think we're making our own choices, but maybe we're not as free as we think.
Right.
It's kind of unsettling, but also kind of liberating.
Yeah, I get that.
Because if we can recognize those influences, maybe we can start to make more conscious.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious, what about you? What resonated with?
I think for me, it was the stuff about education.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of felt like there was something off about the whole system, but I could never quite put my finger on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this video kind of like gave me a framework for understanding those feelings.
Interesting.
Like maybe it wasn't just me being rebellious or whatever.
Right, right.
Maybe there really is something fundamentally wrong with the way we're being taught to think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way.
And it makes me wonder, like, if we know this is happening, if we know we're being programmed, what can we do to change it?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, the video offers some suggestions like mindfulness and being more aware of the media we consume.
Right.
But it also talks about the need for collective action.
Yeah.
Like we need to change the systems themselves.
And that's a huge undertaking.
It is, but I think it starts with individual awareness.
Yeah, like you said, waking up to what's going on.
Exactly.
And then, maybe from there, we can start to create something better.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
So for all of you listening, I'd encourage you to really think about this stuff. Like what parts of your life feel truly authentic and what parts might be influenced by these systems.
And what can you do to start taking back control?
Even small changes can make a difference.
Absolutely. So to leave you with a final thought, here's something to ponder.
Okay.
If these systems are as powerful as the video suggests, what kind of world would we create if we consciously chose to build systems that prioritize well-being, critical thinking, and true freedom?
That's a great question.
Yeah, something to think about.
Something to
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep questioning everything
Yeah.
and keep diving deep.
I have to